Meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We should invite these guys every night to do the pledge.
For the pre-K, that was cute. Remember that?
Yeah.
All right. First, does everyone have a chance to look at the minutes of the October 23rd, 2017 board meeting? Any changes? Motion?
Just a couple little.
Sure, go ahead.
Coach Niles spoke to cross-country team. She thanked the school. Maybe it should be the school board. And then,
Where's that at?
Second line
Second
down,
line.
spotlight A, right towards the end.
well, yeah, right in the second.
Yep.
Yeah. And then for the new business, Mr. Wazark made a motion to approve two new elective history courses. I think one was Introduction to Colonial America, based on the Hamilton musical. I mean, we should put that in there, I think.
More specific?
Yeah, and then the Character Education, the Medal of Honor. I mean, it'd be nice to let people know what they were.
What line is that one on, Dave?
The first line.
A,
New business A.
Gotcha.
So I'll split them out then.
Or list both classes specifically.
Just list them.
Character Education, the Medal of Honor, and then Introduction to Colonial America based on the Hamilton musical.
Okay. Anything else? All right, I'd entertain a motion after those changes.
Move to approve?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the minutes for the October 23rd, 2017 meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, next, the approval of general fund vouchers 75156 through 75190, wire transfers 171806162 through 171802200, and activity fund vouchers 2946 through 2993 and 9000 through 9015. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve?
Second? Anyone?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the general fund vouchers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. All right, any public comments on the agenda? I didn't see anything. No? Okay, next, spotlight on education.
Okay, so for the spotlight on education, Mrs. Anderson and Ms. Meyer have both agreed to come in with some second grade students to share what their project was about, and then some of the second graders have agreed to present.
Yes, thank you for having us here tonight. We pulled this second grade class and we had 4 brave souls to come and talk to you. This is a unit that Mrs. Anderson and I have been working on for a couple years together. When I said, hey, I can help you with this unit, she said, what? Are you sure? And I said, that's my job, to work with you. So she's going to talk about her process in the classroom. Then we're going to talk about how we work together, use library resources, and then how parents were involved as well. So it wasn't just at school, but it was at school and at home.
So I'm Mrs. Anderson, and this project fits well into our new reading series, Reach for Reading, that we just kicked off this September. So this fits into our communities unit, and it talks about what they want to be when they grow up. So they learn about different jobs, and then they think about themselves in the future and how they can give back to a community. And it starts with just some brainstorming. Then they do some research, and Mrs. Meyer and I collaboratively do that together. And then that research was sent home, and parents then got to work with their child and use an outline and fill in some information. So these kids, it's really kind of a wide open project. It really allows for a lot of creativity. And after their information comes back, they work on a poster that describes their job a bit in pictures. And then we practice our public speaking skills. And that's a pretty big thing for 7 and 8 year olds to be able to stand. We have our own podium. It's a lot smaller than this one. And none of them want to sit on this stool tonight. So we can see them, just barely. But we work on pacing, we work on voice level, we work on presentation skills, eye contact. So they all have lots of practice at that. And then we invite teachers and other second grade classes to come in, and then they have their big presentation day. I know they feel very proud of themselves because it is quite a process, and being up in front of people is a skill that I believe is something that must be worked on, and they have honed their skill. So I think we are ready to start then. We have 4 children here who will be sharing, and first up is Jake Christensen. Our podium in our room is metal, so we normally hang this on the front, but I will be presenting his poster today.
Hello, my name is Jake. I want to be a plumber when I grow up. I want to be a plumber because my dad's one. A plumber is responsible for the system of pipes within a building. Plumbers must be certified in order to practice their trade. My favorite part of the job would be because you can make money and help people.
Okay, can we just clap? That was good.
Next is Molly Meyer.
Hello, my name is Molly, and I want to be an astronaut when I grow up. I want to be an astronaut because it is my dream job, and I love space. Astronauts spend at least 1,000 hours in command of a jet aircraft. Neil Armstrong became the first human to walk on the moon. My favorite part of the job would be going to space.
Good job.
We have Tara Niles.
Hello, my name is Taryn, and I want to be a horse trainer when I grow up. I want to be a horse trainer because I love horses. Facts, you should already be an experienced rider before you start training. Don't be afraid to clean stalls, feed, and care for horses. My favorite part of the job would be being able to work with different horses.
And finally, Liam Swanepoel.
Hello, my name is Liam, and I want to be a librarian when I grow up. I want to be a librarian because I like reading. Facts. Fact number 1. Librarians are also known as information scientists. Fact number 2. Librarians are in charge of buying new materials and when to get rid of old ones. My favorite part of the job would be buying new books and movies.
So together, Teresa, she started the kids off on the process. I brought them in. We did an hour computer lab / library search. We looked for any books that we had. Then we used our resources, which I'm going to share with you. Just our library website real quick. If we didn't have the book in our library, Amazon.com came to the rescue. We were able to buy and purchase books using our Common School Funds. If you're not aware of Common School Funds, that's money that's allocated just for our public libraries in the state of Wisconsin. So I'm able to buy books for our students, and Liam and Jake are one of my regulars in the morning, and they like the new books. And as a parent, on the parent side, I really appreciate Teresa's directions and the fact that we didn't have to find certain answers for certain questions. The children really led the research, and they found out what they wanted. My daughter kind of went above and beyond and watched YouTube videos of astronauts in space and astronauts learning. And so it was really great. They could do as much as they wanted or the minimum. I just wanted to share our website. This is what our students use during the day. This is our school website. Right here under quick links is our library site. This is just a Google site that I have put together with resources for our elementary, high school, parents, teachers, everything. So our kids know that when they log on, where do we go?
Onto our library.
To our library. So we made it, for the little kids, they can click on the pictures instead of having to use the top. For our elementary students, everything is visual. So all of their sites that they can go are the icon of that source. So they just click on that, and if they're at school, it automatically logs them into ones that we pay for. If they're at home, there is a link or a page sent home with all the usernames and passwords. So they go on. Which source did we use for this one?
We love
Britannica. I didn't even tell them to remember that. Badgerlink is a great one. It's a great resource filled with tons of stuff from the state of Wisconsin. We are very lucky to have it. One of those sources is Britannica School. It's just an online encyclopedia. So they went on there, they searched their profession, they printed it out. If they, of course it didn't work tonight, but we could go in, there's a whole process to get through it through Badgerlink. These kids know it because that's usually how we do it. It will read to them. If they are having trouble reading it, it will read. It will give them pictures and videos that they can use, and it cites all of the sources for them. So that's great. I just wanted to show you real quick the rest of the website. Our high school students have their own page as well with more resources beneath it, so they know if they have a project and I'm not available, they can go here and find something to use. Our teachers, I'm always looking for new stuff for our teachers, so there's teacher websites, there's teacher tools, okay? And then below here, some people were asking about our resources, information and passwords. There are several, and they're all different because that's what the vendor gives me. So if you do at any time need those, you click on the bottom here, and it might not work. Oh, it did, perfect. And all of those are on there. It's supposed to be password or school protected, so it's only clear like users can log on. That's just what the people tell me because they don't want everybody to see it, But any student or faculty member can log on here and just see any of the usernames or passwords. And then we do have a parent section as well. So we have parent resources that has a lot on digital citizenship, search engines for children, and we get a lot of questions, what apps are good for my kids? So I've linked it to several articles of suggested apps. And we switched to Google last year, so this is just a quick, frequently asked questions about Google, how it works in the school. If they have any questions that they don't want to ask, they can just log on here, click on it, and then look through those. We have also gone with lost books. Sometimes I'm scary, I guess. And if they're at home and their parents are like, we can't find it, just go on there, put student name, your address, and what book you're missing. We can look for it. So it's kind of nice. You don't have to come and talk to me. I'm really not that scary. A book request form for teachers or students. Anybody can go on there, request a book. And then there's some information on our Common School Funds. So I am always adding to it every day. And the most frequently used page is our elementary resources. So that's where our kids know to go and find their information, right? Yeah. So thank you. Any questions?
I just want to ask the kids, how did you guys pick which job you wanted to research?
I don't know.
Well, one of you must really like Mrs. Meyer's job because that's what you're going to come after, right? You're going to work her out of a job?
That's what we were
Did you
talking
pick
about.
those jobs in Mrs. Anderson's room or in the library?
Where did you pick the rooms? In Mrs. Anderson's room or when you came to the library?
A little bit of both.
Did you? Mrs.
Anderson.
Anderson's room. They came to me with a list. Mrs. Meyer, grab these books, see what you have. And then if I didn't have the book, I bought the book. Or we looked on our website to see if we had information.
A lot of the people did.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of the books because we had a YouTuber. A person wants to be a YouTuber. That one was new. So yeah, there's always new stuff coming up.
And I did let them know that I'm not going to check on them in 20 years. This is the job. This is not set in stone in any way. But it was that first, what do you think? Dreams. What dream job do you have? And then they just started brainstorming things, and I think kids got ideas from other kids. We didn't have a lot of repeats, so it was really just kind of based on what they were drawn to.
Sweet.
You gotta go with pizza.com because I'm ready.
So we thank you for letting us share,
Oh, we thank you.
Yeah.
and we thank our presenters tonight.
You guys did a wonderful
Good
job.
job.
out there. Yep.
Go home and eat some ice cream. You've earned it.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson, Mrs.
say.
Meyer. So we'll move on to our new business, item A, approval of the 2017-18 winter coaches.
Okay, so I just had that first document there, the winter coaches, the list of the coaches. We have a couple kind of variables, the dance and cheer. One of our coaches will be on maternity leave, so we're just still kind of working that out. But for the most part, it's set.
And what's the update on junior high coaches? Do we have interviews? Is that what I heard?
Junior high.
For wrestling, sorry.
Wrestling.
Wrestling, I saw there was a, said,
Where do you see that?
Bottom.
open the junior high.
Oh, we with that one we're waiting on numbers.
Okay,
So no interviews or anything has been set.
okay.
We're just kind of waiting on numbers to make that
Was just
determination.
Curious, okay. All right, any questions, guys? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the winter coaches.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 2017-18 winter coach roster. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Yep.
Motion passes. Then we'll move on to item B, approval of youth options consideration.
Okay, so we have another student that applied for some youth options at the WITC. You can see that student's request on the second page after the board approval. She meets all of the board criteria, board policy criteria. And is currently enrolled out there with some classes currently. So just looking to.
I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the youth option consideration. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Then we'll move on to item C, review of the November 6th board retreat.
I just wanted to go over the board retreat. I thought it was a extremely successful retreat. I thought we had a lot of good conversation and dialogue between the board and the admin team, and just some topics that were discussed just for the public. One was this technology plan, which we've talked about briefly at a previous meeting. We're looking to do a 1-to-1, and we've started the process of not purchasing yet, but just investigating different devices to be utilized at different grade levels. And Bo Osmonrud has ordered a couple devices just recently that we're going to be exploring and messing around with and doing our best to try to break and see how they work to help us kind of make the decision for next year as far as what that will look like. And we've discussed at a technology committee what the 1-to-1 device looks like, and it looks like we're moving towards more of a cart, 1-to-1 device cart in each classroom up until 9-12, and then 9-12 is going to be more of a true a 1-to-1, possibly even a take-home 1-to-1 plan at the 9th through 12th grade. But that stuff has yet to be ironed out, but those are the conversations that are being had at the technology committee. So we discussed that a little bit at the board retreat. We also discussed the guaranteed viable curriculum work or stuff that we've been doing in the district, and surveyed the staff, and they're looking for more time. So as an admin team, we've talked about making sure that we provide more time for the staff to work through some of that, and that we're not rushing that initiative, that's going to be, this year and next year as well. Shared with the the board that the admin team started a culture committee, met with some individuals in the district to talk about different ways to continue to build positive culture within the district, and obviously the topic of attracting and retaining staff was kind of a part of the reason for that. We talked about the DPI's District of Innovation, possibly applying for that as being just recognized as a District of Innovation. So we looked into that a little bit. We discussed bringing in Mr. Al Brown, who formerly worked at CISA 11, to discuss a data dig and hopefully meet with us in April and June. I reached out to him and left a message with him, waiting for a call back. So hopefully being able to bring him into the district to do kind of like another board retreat yet this year. But more specific, I think, to data was the plan, and that may change depending on my conversation with him, but I think that was the intent. We discussed looking at a new evaluation format for myself in the superintendent role. We decided that the 2018-19 school year we would look at creating something new for that year for the evaluation format. And then lastly, we talked about the charter school grant funding that just recently DPI put out. And Mr. Wazorek will be discussing more of that in detail. Am I missing anything that you guys can think of?
I think that was about it.
We covered a lot of ground. Yeah.
Good discussion. Okay.
Maybe some of the future with more buildings and stuff like that.
Right.
We talked about that a little
Potential
bit.
growth in
Oh,
the future.
Yep.
Like
Just
what
the
the
impact.
bridge could do and
Yeah.
just bigger picture.
Anything else? Okay, good stuff. Then we'll move on to new business D, discussion of charter school grant.
So that was talked about at the board retreat, but Mr. Wazorek is going to share in more detail about the history of that in our district and then the new opportunity at the state level.
Is this a federal grant or a state grant?
State.
State.
Thank you for that. Thank you. It's the opposite. Well, that's the. John, you don't have a copy of this. This is the original grant for. You guys have it in the packet, the original grant? All right. You should know this well.
Does it look like this?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
There.
So,
All right. Well, that's warming up. At the retreat, one of the things we talked about was that DPI, through the feds, has charter school dollars available. Wisconsin was awarded $93 million in this next round of startups. And so we talked a little bit about what the original charter grant that we put together. And Chris, correct me if some of my dates and times are wrong on some of this. But in 2009, the district had an alternative education program that was really servicing kind of labeled at-risk students, and there was some real success with that. But the dollars for that one kind of all right, they kind of washed up. And about that same time, a new round of grant money was available for a new round of grant money was available, and so in 2009, or excuse me, 2011. Yeah, just keep pushing buttons. 2011. I had a meeting with Brad Ayer at the time, and we had a discussion about what it might look like to put in a grant for a charter school here. My background is working in a charter school in Minnesota, and so the two of us started talking. We put together some plans. We met with Chris and started to develop the concept of what a charter school could look like here in Clear Lake. In October of 2011, a group of us went to a DPI training, a Charter School 101, just kind of to get the background information. And then a team was put together. After that meeting. We presented to the school board after putting that team together, which included Mrs. Rubel, Mrs. Hughes, and several other teachers. We did a number of planning sessions, and then we presented at a community meeting in March of 2012. So I brought with me there. Yes, nice. All right, wonderful. I brought with me the community presentation that we had done, and it's hard to believe that it was March of 2012. And as I looked through it, I realized in 5.5 years, how much things have changed. There's some things in here that are like really dated that just kind of blow me away on how things change. But I'm just going to go through sort of the basic concept that we had originally put together. And our next steps, as we kind of talked about at the retreat, were just to share and then look to see if we wanted to move forward with pursuing the grant application this time around. And so we talked about the whole idea behind charters was about choices. And so this gave Clear Lake another choice. I wanted to make sure that people understood what charters were. Charters are free and public and offer choice. One of the confusions, and particularly back then, about charters were that they were somehow private or that they were not part of the actual school district. Non-religious, open to all children in the state, employ fully qualified teachers, participate in statewide testing programs, and at that time, look at that, must comply with No Child Left Behind, several iterations ago, and state testing, federal testing. Why charter? Some of the things that we talked about were innovative school opportunities, and it's kind of interesting on how much of innovation is sort of the lexicon right now in education. When we were doing this, we were talking about innovative practices back then. Not all students learn the same. We know this as educators and as parents, and oftentimes opportunities are kind of only one way of doing things in a lot of traditional models. So looking at a student-centered learning model, access to additional resources, not only the startup dollars, but a lot of provided support through the state and through the network of charter schools. And then to lead the region in educational innovation. And that's a lot of what we came back to last Monday, also was talking about we could potentially be a real leader around the area when it comes to educational innovation. So we came up with a vision of what the school would look like, and it was kind of a five-piece kind of vision. One was around project-based learning. The other was around an advisory model. One-to-one emerging technology, which again, at that time was really cutting edge, and now here we are, in 2017, looking at that across the board with schools, or with Clear Lake. A strong service learning component, and then community-based field studies. And I broke these apart on each of the parts. Project-based learning, I'm not going to go into full depth. There's a video that's included in here. I just want to show kind of the first few seconds of it because I talk about sort of the datedness of some of this. I think the second graders could put together a better presentation than the one that was put together for this. So. And it just shows kind of the day in the life of project-based learning through a school lens. We talked a lot about what projects and end products could be, and just sort of put together this list of all kinds of different ways that students could present work that's not sort of, again, your traditional reading, writing, research paper, but looking at all kinds of learning styles of students. The advisory model, I really like this quote. It really talks about the idea of you can have all of the sort of the tools that exist, and when this was written in 1968, things like all the computer stuff that we're talking about wasn't even really on the forefront at all, but talking about all that, but it really comes down to the relationships that teachers and learners have. And so advisory, in the idea that we were talking about, was creating close-knit groups of students who had one or two long-term caring adult relationships that would help them through their whole middle school and junior or in high school career. And so a lot of kind of team building things. There's a number of pictures of me in here because this is from my advisory back in the day. And just different activities that students and advisors would do together that didn't necessarily look like sort of traditional classroom kind of things, but were building relational connections between students. One-to-one emerging technology. Again, there's a video in here that goes along, which is somewhat relevant still, but it could be really updated with sort of the things that are going on in schools today. I won't show that whole one either, but and then we talked about a strong service learning component. Connecting with the community, giving back to the community, having students learn from doing a lot of the stuff that Mr. Gillis, Mr. Larson are talking about, making those connections into the community. We're part of that service learning component that we talked about. And so, a teaching and learning strategy that integrates meaningful community service with instruction and reflection to enrich the learning experience, teach civic responsibility, and strengthen communities. And so I just included a number of different pictures from our school with community service learning connections. And then finally, community-based field studies. We have a lot of opportunities in Clear Lake and the Polk County area to really get out and learn by doing, and doing a lot of experiential learning kind of things that are not necessarily fully utilized. And so one of the ideas for the charter school was to have a lot of field-based learning experiences. Some of the highlights that we put together: low student-to-staff ratios, multi-age classrooms, individualized learning, cross-curricular projects, opportunities for all learners to be successful, community expo nights, student-led conferences, and personal learning plans. We put together a sample schedule, and then what our next steps were after that meeting. And so again, looking at sort of the grant cycle. So that's, for those of you who weren't there, like I said, Sue and Chris were, I think, the only ones around. Lori would have been here then too, but for that original model, and then Greg was on the board. But otherwise, questions, or just, I guess we can just go back to kind of conversation about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of people at that meeting? The community?
There were.
Yeah.
I want to say 40 plus.
That's what I was gonna say, 40, 50.
Yeah, actually, I think your article says maybe even,
I can't.
or maybe not, there was a follow-up, I think, that, to that, yeah.
Probably. It was in here.
Yeah, it was,
So
it
the
was a really
board,
good crowd.
at the board retreat, we just talked about, going through that process, how much interest it generated, at the school level and then also the community level. And then talked about whether or not that was something that we wanted to, kind of pursue again now that there's $95 or $93 million, out there, that's gonna be distributed amongst the schools that apply for it, so.
We also, just to throw out a few more things we talked about, we talked about some of the fringe students coming in and this being a good place for them, but also for the high flyers of the district, there'd be a place for them in something like this as well. I remember when we did this the first time, Mr. Ayer was excited about it because he thought that this would be we would be a premier educational institution where we'd be probably bringing in a bunch of students from outside our district in, which would be a positive thing. So there was a lot of hype, there was a lot of excitement, and we were really bummed when we didn't get it the first time. So here it is on our desk again. So where do we want to go from here?
And I personally think the area that we live in, I think it would generate a lot of kind of hype in the surrounding areas. So I don't think there are too many surrounding districts or districts around us that have a charter school that, the project-based charter school. I know Amory has a Montessori school, and I'm not familiar with any others, in the area. So I do think it would. One, I think it would create another option for students within our own, walls of our district, but then also I think it could generate some open enrollment possibilities for kids that aren't part of our district.
And as well, getting it on its feet and watching it run, and then also actually just learning from the things that we do in this charter school and then applying them back to the children in our general population too would be another benefit from it. So
I don't see any negatives.
So the process then would be, this was due April last time, so is that the same general window?
It's a bit of a new timeline. First of the year is when they're going to announce all the details.
Okay.
This was just, they had secured the federal funding, Wisconsin accepted it, and now they're in the stages of saying, what's our process going to be and what are our timelines? Yeah.
Does this need to be funded annually then, every year, or once it's there in place? I mean, could it be for just 1 year and then it's done?
No.
The grant's for 5 years.
But 1 year is putting the plan together,
there's a
so
planning
4
year,
years of.
yeah. Yeah. And that, this year, they're looking at, because it is a 5-year cycle, they may even give you the option to do 2 years of planning, which may or may not be to the benefit, but, if you're kind of ready to go forward with that. But they used to be a 3-year cycle, and now it's a 5-year cycle, so I'm not exactly sure kind of what they're thinking on that process, but I do know on that last round, they did have schools that started up and then didn't reach their enrollment numbers and then did have to pull back, and some of the districts dropped their schools. So I think the 5-year is just to make sure that you can get it to be viable and sustainable over time, because it is supposed to be self-funding after your startup dollars. Yeah.
So the funding, if I recall, on the last one, the funding kind of steps down each of the 5 years, so that by the time you get to year 3, 4, and 5, you've generated, you have it established. The initial money helps you with the planning and the initial hires that maybe you have to do some additional staffing and training,
materials,
and then it steps down to where it's kind of sustaining itself is the idea behind it.
Yeah, and I think they had more of them not succeed than they wanted to, and so I think that's why they've stretched out the time frame.
So the numbers would count with our per pupil numbers then for everything else
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
open enrollment, whatever?
I mean, if done correctly, and you get, you get a handful of open enrolled from outside, it would fund itself potentially.
Is it a similar application, or is the application available?
I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know.
January 1st.
Yeah.
The first one looked really good to me. I read it, but I imagine it's not going to be word for word.
Mrs. Rule and Mrs. Hughes and I put a lot of
I
time.
bet you did.
Wordsmith in that one. So, yeah.
I would say it's worth pursuing. I think it would make, if we think we're going to have an influx of people, you know, and we're growing, that maybe would be something that would draw people to our community too. Well, within our new kids, or our current kids, or open enrollment from other schools, people from the cities moving out. Boy, look at what that district is doing and what potential. I have 100 kids in my students' class here in the cities, and I can go down to this. I think it would be a draw.
So what do we do now? Just wait to see till more information comes out?
I think so, yeah. I think we wait till the application period opens up and bring it to the board again once that happens and discuss it in further detail.
And I think we learned a lot of things from the first application, and some things have changed, but some things are going to be the same, and some of the things that maybe they were concerned about the first time, we could definitely remedy. I know one of the feedbacks on one of the two of them was we needed more community input, more people on our planning team rather than just the community meeting, but even earlier in on that. And now that we've done it once and people kind of have somewhat of an idea, I think it wouldn't be that hard to find community members who would be interested in that.
Maybe that's one thing we could do now, if we're waiting till January, start to talk to some of the people that were on it before. Are you interested on doing it again? So once we have it in January, we can start running with it instead of thinking, oh, now we need 2 months to figure out who's going to help put it together.
Yeah, one of the things that we also did was present it to the high school faculty, just so that everyone was involved.
Sounds real good. All right, well then we'll look for more information. All right, then we'll move on to the next item of business, item E, approval of Fab Lab application.
Okay, so if you guys remember last year, we applied for a Fab Lab grant. We didn't get it, but last year, myself, Mr. Gillis, Mr. Neil Larson, our tech ed teacher, went to some of the surrounding businesses, pretty much asking for money to explain what the Fab Lab grant was, what that would mean for our district, and what that would mean for our businesses, and how that could be kind of a marriage relationship for our kids here and the business. So we didn't get it, but we still purchased a couple things in the district. We discussed as an admin team. We made the decision to buy a screen printing machine, which has been a huge success. The kids are starting to work on that and produce some really neat shirts, and we've seen both Reg Ed and Special Ed benefit from that. And then we also purchased, help me out, Mr. Gillis, a vinyl cutter, which our first project paid for itself. I had a quote previously to replace all of the signs at the high school. If you notice, they're pretty yellowed and some are white and just needed replacement. And the quote was almost $2,000. So it was, the quote to replace that was less than what we paid for the vinyl cutter. So the kids they haven't completed that project, but they're in the process of doing that, and they're turning out really, really neat. And the kids are a part of it. Mr. Larson has the kids kind of one student kind of leading that team, and it's really neat. We've all the admin team has been down there to see it, and it's definitely generating some excitement down there, and you can see the program growing and kids learning, kind of even starting to incorporate some graphic design, which is neat to see. So to get back onto the Fab Lab, we hope to purchase with this. We're looking for board approval again. It's a matching grant, the 50-50, so it would be a $25,000 and then $25,000 match from the district to buy a laser engraver and then a CNC mill. Thank you. And then the business that I'm blanking. I can think of the Zoft, right? Unipunch, thank you. We could have a really nice relationship with that business where our kids are actually producing something that's benefiting for them. So our hope is that we'll get the grant this round.
It's a matching grant.
Yep, matching 50/50 grant. So right now it's just a this item does need a board approval. If you have further questions, we could table it, and Mr. Larson will be here at the next board meeting. He's going to do a little presentation for you guys. So it's up to you guys if you want to make a motion to approve it, and he's still going to come in next board meeting, or if you have questions, if you're not comfortable approving this, we can certainly wait till he's present.
When is the grant due?
When is the grant
When's the
due?
grant due?
Was it December?
Was it mid-December?
Yes, I was saying.
I think we should make a motion, approve it now.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the Fab Lab application. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. And then we'll move on to item F, review of board candidacy election timetable.
So I put the timetable in there. The only date it didn't have, the very last page has kind of the breakdown of the timetable for the election. But there were 2 dates that it didn't have. So deadline for school district, the published the notice, the type A notice we did. That's going to be in the local newspaper and in the Amory paper. January 2nd is the deadline for declaring candidacy. And then back to December 22nd is the last day for incumbent office holders not intending to seek a re-election to file the notification of non-candidacy. So the December 22nd is that last date, and then the January 2nd is the last date for declaring candidacy. And then obviously the election, the spring election, is April 3rd.
Okay,
Any questions?
sounds good. Thanks, Joshua. So then we'll move on to item G, discussion of 2018 WASB State Conference.
And just put that in there. I know it's a long time to commit to, but it's the January. I put the link in there in the superintendent notes for you guys. The link to, if you wanted to check out the website, but the annual WASB State Conference is in January from the 17th to the 19th in Milwaukee. Again, always held in Milwaukee. And then the information is on that. So if you're interested, please let myself know, and I can, either myself or Lori can get you registered for
I
it.
was gonna go.
You're going to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to item H, approval of increased support staff salary.
Okay, so both the support staff and the teacher's salary increase, when we went through the budgeting cycle, the proposal was a 1.5% increase. That hasn't changed. I'd like to get to the point where, and obviously a lot of this is out of our control, but it'd be nice to get it to that consistent, between closer to that 2%, which I feel like we're getting close to. So that 1.5. We've talked about attracting staff and keeping our staff here, and I think we met as a culture committee, and I do believe the number one variable is not money. I do believe it's the people you work with, the culture that you work with. But I do think that when you come to this time of year, when you're looking for that increase and it's lower than that 2%, there is that kind of feeling of underappreciation. I think it's being valued and recognizing the staff for the hard work that they do and what they do every day, and we do have a great staff. So my hope is that we will continue to move away from the CPI and the 0.6 increases and the 0.5s, and anything below that 1.5. So this year we're at that 1.5% and very comfortable with that.
What did we do last year, Josh?
Last year we were at 1%, so we're moving in the right direction. And I think prior to that it's been matching the CPI, which is extremely low. It was 0.6, I think, or 0.6 one year, 1.2 maybe.
Yeah, 1.1 or something.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so you're looking for us to approve 1.5 then?
Well, 1.5 increase.
All right,
yeah.
then I'll
This
entertain
goes
that.
into effect when?
So this would be for this current year, so it'd be a
Go back to
retro pay.
So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
second.
Properly moved and seconded to approve to increase the support staff salary 1.5%. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes. And then we'll move right into the teacher salary increase.
And same thing, same discussion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we approve the teacher salary increase of 1.5% for school year 2017-18. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. So then we'll move on to J, consideration approval of cancellation of the November 27th board meeting.
This was brought up at the last board meeting due to the fact that we've had a board meeting plus as well as a board retreat, and then it falling close to Thanksgiving, the consideration, or at least the discussion to consider canceling the second meeting in November.
I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the cancellation of the November 27th board meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the cancellation of the November 27th, 2017 board meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll move on to our superintendent notes. Josh.
Okay. So we had quite a bit. We had going back even to October 30th, we had the fall concert, band and choir concert. Went very well. The kids did a really nice job. Both the band and choir did a nice job and sounded great. We had the NHS induction ceremony that I wasn't able to attend, but Mr. Gillis was there and said it went well. Anything to add, Mr. Gillis? to that?
That went very well. We have 11 new inductees into the NHS.
Then the football had its last game, playoffs, unfortunately losing against Abbotsford, but an amazing game. Fun to be a part of. It was beautiful. Snowfall. And a great season to the kids and to the staff. We had a lot of compliments, not obviously about their playing, but also even more importantly about just their how they conducted themselves, coaching and the players, with their wins and their one loss. I thought they had a tremendous level of class throughout the whole season, and we received a lot of compliments. So I thought the coaching staff and the kids did a great job, and it was a great season. Then we had the board retreat on Monday the 6th, which, like I said, I thought was extremely needed, and it was a huge success on my end. I thought there was a lot of good dialogue between the admin team and the board. I thought it was just overall the conversation that we had was positive, and we were allowed to share a lot of stuff and share the direction of the district and where we're headed with the technology plan and the guaranteed and viable curriculum. Then we had a teacher in service. The girls basketball team began on the 6th. We had the first elementary teacher conferences, parent-teacher conferences on the 9th. We had the Veterans Day program at the elementary and at the high school, which I think I said this last year. It's really impressive to see. I think it's a neat thing, and we think about that we wouldn't even be able to be in the jobs that we're in and to be in a free and appropriate public education for our kids to be a part of. We wouldn't have that without the veterans, and to be able to honor them in the way that we do in the district is neat to see. The elementary kids did a great job. Mr. Peterson did a great job at the program. The kids sang a song and then honored the vets. And then at the high school we did very similar. Had a couple different recognitions. One to Mrs. Rubel for her involvement with the VFW. And then I thought a great speech by Mr. Larson and the representation of what Veterans Day is. So really a neat day overall. We had a high school play, which I thought the kids did a fantastic job. I thought we brought the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders over to, I don't even know what it's called, the Amory
Theater.
Old Theater.
Classic theater.
Classic Theater, thank you. A neat environment to be in, and the kids did a really nice job at during the play, and I think our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders really did a nice job sitting and listening to the play, and they got to ask some questions to the directed at the high school kids, and high school kids did a nice job answering it. So overall, it was neat to see, and it was our first year trying it over at the theater, and I thought it went well. Then elementary book fair and movie night was on the 10th, Friday, which I wasn't able to attend, unfortunately, but I heard it was a huge success like last year, and I thank all the teachers for putting in their time and getting that all ready. And the high school play went through the weekend, and which brings us today. We have which is crazy because the football and volleyball team both did such a phenomenal job, as well as the cross country, but the football and volleyball, went into the postseason, which not a lot of turnaround time, but the boys basketball and the wrestling season started today, so they're practicing tonight. And then we have parent-teacher conferences tomorrow at the elementary, and then next year we have our first boys basketball scrimmage at Amory. I think it's at the middle school, and then the first girls basketball game at Spring Valley on Tuesday the 22nd, and then early dismissal on Wednesday the 22nd, and then Thanksgiving break.
Nice. Any questions for Josh? Okay, then we'll move on to our next item on our agenda, the future agenda items sections. Anybody have anything they want to add?
Is the coach's handbook
Yep,
close to being?
That'll be on the next. It'll be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Can we get that maybe a couple weeks before?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we have, it's a month before our next meeting, so we'll have plenty of time to look it over.
Yep.
Any evaluation probably out for us to start on?
Are we gonna skip that?
I thought we were gonna use the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When is that completed? Supposed to be completed by, Josh?
January. So
So if we have time to work on it while we're missing our.
I can
next
get that out to you guys along with the coach's handbook here
Okay.
this week yet.
Yeah, we'll have a whole month to do it.
Right. And hopefully Al Brown will get back to you that we can throw some dates out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone think of anything else? Okay, if you think of something after the meeting, just give me a call or give Josh a call.
Do we do the auditor come in and do a presentation after that's done?
Say that again?
Does the auditor come in and do a presentation sometime after that's done?
She can. She said
Okay.
she doesn't do it for any other district
Oh,
in
okay.
Clear Lake, but she said she'd be more
I
than
just
happy
know
to
we
do
had
it.
done it the 1 year, so I
Yeah.
just was thinking about that. Okay.
Yeah, Kim Frank.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.